Sebring yellow, so bright it looked like it was already on fire standing still. Black stripes, 310 horsepower. Detroit built it. America wanted it. And the men in the boardroom killed it in 12 months. 8 cars, all of them loved. All of them killed after a single year. This is their story. That yellow car was the 1970 Oldsmobile Rallye 350. Not built for showrooms or collectors. Oldsmobile designed it for the working man. Real performance at a price you could actually reach. Sebring yellow, so loud it announced itself from 3 blocks away. You feel that hood shake at idle? That wasn't a defect. That was the engine talking to you. They moved 3,547 of them in 1970. That's not a struggling car, that's a car with a genuine audience. Then, the emission rules tightened and the suits made their call. Men who had never sat behind that wheel decided the Rallye 350 didn't fit the future they were planning. Not retired. Killed. 1964. AMC, still under the Rambler name, built the Rambler Typhoon, a proper fastback coupe with clean lines and 145 horsepower that was honest about every pound it pushed, exactly 2,520 built. In a country of 200 million people, finding one on a lot was already against the odds. But if you were 22 in 1964 and pulled up in a Typhoon, you knew something the Chevy guys on your block didn't. That new 232 pulled clean and willing in a way 6 cylinders weren't supposed to. And that fastback roofline turned heads nobody expected an AMC to turn. Then AMC shifted priorities internally. Nobody in those meetings had driven one home that night. They just moved numbers around a table and the Typhoon disappeared before most of America ever learned its name. What does it feel like to drop the top on an open American road in 1967? You already know the answer. Wind, engine note, open sky. Some things don't need explaining. AMC built the Rambler Row convertible for exactly that feeling. Only 921 of them. 921. Your father might have pointed one out from the passenger seat once. You both watched it go. Neither of you ever saw another. Then the accountants did what accountants do, looked at a number on a page, and decided that feeling wasn't worth keeping alive. The door didn't just close. It got closed on purpose. 921 people owned something the rest of the country would spend decades trying to find. CJ. 2 letters that told you everything before you even opened the hood. Cobra Jet. Mercury dropped a 428 cubic inch engine into the 1969 Cyclone and didn't apologize for a single thing about it. Around 3,260 built. If you heard a Cobra Jet at wide open throttle in 1969, you didn't need anyone to explain what it was. Your body already knew. That sound didn't come from a spec sheet. It came from somewhere deeper. You might have seen one at a dealership that year and never realized it was the only year you'd ever have the chance to buy one new. Then somebody at Ford decided the Cyclone CJ didn't fit the direction they were choosing. Not the direction the road chose, the direction they chose. Gone. The year is 1977. The oil crisis has already done its damage. Displacement numbers across the industry have been squeezed until they barely breathe. And Pontiac, the division that gave you the GTO and the Firebird, a division that had built its entire identity on the idea that performance was a man's birthright, still isn't ready to say it's over. They put a 400 cubic inch engine into the Le Mans platform and built 1,377 of them, at a time when that kind of commitment had become almost an act of defiance. The seats held you in hard corners. The wheel sat exactly where a driver's wheel belongs. A last stand from engineers inside Pontiac who still believed their audience existed. The suits above them disagreed. The Can-Am was the last stand, and it went down swinging. Now here's one that almost didn't exist at all. The 1973 Jeep Super Jeep. AMC ran short on the alloy wheels they needed for the CJ5 Renegade package, so their designers put something together fast. A Bolt factory appearance package on the iconic CJ5. 2-tone interior, chrome bumper, body stripes that turned heads whether you were on a mountain road or a main street. Production ran May through July of 1973, 3 months, and then it stopped. Approximately 300 left the factory. No announcement, no final order. When the alloy wheel shortage resolved, the men upstairs moved on and the Super Jeep went with them. About 300 Americans drove one home. The men who authorized it never thought about them again. That's not a business decision. That's just not caring. The 1977 AMC Hornet AMX came from a company that had no business building what it built. AMC was running out of money, running out of road, running out of time. But the Hornet AMX arrived with a 304 cubic inch V8 at a moment when the rest of the industry had already walked away from that commitment. Behind the wheel, it talked to you. Through the floor, through the shifter, through every imperfection in the pavement. It didn't smooth things out. It told you the truth. That 304 ran honest and it ran hard and it never pretended to be something it wasn't. For one model year, the first and the last year the Hornet ever carried the AMX name, AMCB built something that deserved to outlive the company that built it. The boardroom ran out of options. The car never ran out of character. Now we get to the one that should be in every serious conversation about American performance history, and almost never is. The 1968 Mercury Cougar XR7G. The G stood for Dan Gurney, one of the greatest American racing drivers who ever lived. In 1967, Gurney and his Cougar teammates ran the Trans Am season hard. 4 race wins. They came within 2 points of the championship. Mercury built the XR7G to put that racing story in a showroom. Lucas fog lamps, a fiberglass hood scoop, racing mirrors, a high-flow exhaust, a wooden shift knob that belonged in a cockpit, not a commuter lane. Real racing heritage built into the car's identity from the factory floor. They made 619 of them. Spread across an entire country. Fewer people than fit inside most American high school gymnasiums. If you owned one, your neighbor didn't know what it was. The man at the next gas pump didn't know. The person in the lane beside you on the highway had no idea what they were sitting next to. You could drive that car every single day and be the only person on your street who understood what you had. After 1 year, Mercury looked at the numbers, looked at the politics, and made the call without asking the 619 men who drove them home. One of the most legitimate racing heritage streetcars this country ever produced, signed off on by people who had never qualified a car for a race in their lives. 619 cars, 1 year. Gone. 8 cars, 8 one-year runs. None of them failed because the people who loved them stopped caring. Everyone had an audience. Everyone had buyers who knew exactly what they were getting. They were killed by men in rooms who never drove them, never felt what they were, and never understood what they meant to the men who did. Somewhere in America tonight, at least one of these 8 cars is still sitting in a garage, behind a barn, under a cover that hasn't been moved in 20 years. Because the cars Detroit built in those years, even the ones the boardroom killed after a single season, they don't disappear. They just wait. They wait for the man who still knows what they meant. Your generation drove these roads. You know the difference between a car built to move people and a car built to move souls. The boardrooms that killed these 8 cars made their call and moved on. They never lost sleep over it. These cars deserved better than the men who signed the paperwork on killing them. One question before you go. If you could bring back just one of these 8 under one more model year, built exactly the way it was, which one would it be? Tell me in the comments. If you're the kind of man who still wants something real, something that tells the truth at wide open throttle and doesn't apologize for what it is, this channel is built for you. Every week, another chapter that mainstream automotive media never bothered to tell. And if you want to stay right now, the next video covers American muscle cars that were fully designed, built as running prototypes, and then deliberately destroyed before the public ever laid eyes on them. That story is harder to believe than anything on this list.